Hello everyone, and welcome back to One Day at a Time. Today's topic is walking away. So I'm going to start this off by asking a few questions, so just bear with me here. And you can answer these in your head or out loud, however you feel you want to answer it is completely fine. How many of you were in a situation that caused you unhappiness? And how many of you stayed in that situation because you were afraid to leave it? While thinking of a topic for today's episode, I was looking for some kind of inspirational quote to share with you all, and out of the 50 quotes per se I read, one really stuck with me. It said, "I'm learning to love the sound of my feet walking away from things not meant for me." And when I read that for the first time, I thought it was a really important quote to understand and to think about and just always have in the back of your mind. Looking back on my past experiences, walking away can be one of the hardest things to do. Even though the situations I was in caused me pain or unhappiness, I didn't walk away. And I couldn't because I was afraid. I was afraid of disappointing the people around me, and I was afraid of how others might think of me. I used to trust people really easily because I had a fear of being alone. This fear initially started after I was bullied in elementary school. And because I was bullied by my own group of friends, when the incident was resolved, I didn't really have anyone that I could call a friend anymore. And not being able to have that friend to talk to and to be with left me really lonely at the time. This didn't only cause me a fear of loneliness, but it also caused me to rush into a lot of friendships in the future. I've been through friendships that were never really good for me from the beginning. However, I chose to ignore the warning signs because of the possibility that I would end up being alone. In those moments, I needed the friendships so badly that I didn't realize how toxic they were. I ignored how unhappy I really was because I was blinded by the fact that I would end up being afraid and by myself again. I only recently found out how being in those toxic friendships made me lonelier than actually being alone. And I know that might sound confusing or weird, but it's true. I felt a lot lonelier when I was with people who brought me down than when I was actually alone. If you had told me, let's just say 5 years ago, that it's better to be alone than to be with people who bring you down, I would have never believed you, honestly. But now, my response would be completely different. I would tell you that you are completely right. It is way better to just take time to yourself and be alone than to be surrounded by people who hurt you and distract you from who you really are. Replaying all my friendships back in my head, after I ended one friendship, I didn't take that time to just be myself and focus on me. Instead, I just jumped right into the next one I could find. I didn't learn why I kept putting myself in the same kind of friendships, where in the end, I would just get hurt every time. I didn't learn to walk away from the people who weren't good for me. As I mentioned before, I chose not to leave certain situations because I was afraid of disappointing the people around me. And I don't know if any of you had this in your elementary school, but in my elementary school, when we were in the 4th grade, we could choose to be in either orchestra, band, or choir. Because my older sister played viola at the time, my mom suggested I also take up something in orchestra, specifically the cello. And I agreed to it. I thought it was a really cool instrument to learn, and I loved the sound of it. And at first I only took cello through school, but eventually my parents put me into private lessons. Because I was so young and never really spoke my mind, and just for reference, I never really spoke my mind as a child at all, so I just went along with it. I did as I was told, even though deep down, after a while, I really did not like playing the cello. I never really enjoyed practicing, and honestly, I felt unhappy. What I really wanted to do was sing and take vocal lessons. And after a few years of hiding behind that truth, I gained the courage and finally explained to my parents what I really wanted to do and what I loved and had a passion for. And after I had gotten over that fear of disappointing my parents, And it may have taken me a while, but I had finally walked away from what made me unhappy and walked into my own decisions filled with new opportunities that I could pursue. And something I think that's really important to know is that walking away may not always be the right answer. If you're in a situation where you have to push on and you have to persevere, that's completely okay, because you can learn in the future that persevering and pushing yourself just builds you into a better person. But sometimes it is necessary for your own well-being to just walk away, despite your fear of disappointing people around you or your fears in general. And from what I've learned from all of this is that walking away is not giving up at all. I know some of you may think that walking away is giving up, but from what I've learned, it's not giving up at all. Walking away is giving in to the strength of who you are and who you are meant to be in the present and in the future. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I really do hope that this information can help you guys in any way possible. Stay tuned for next episode, and remember, take it one day at a time.